Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, and today I have pulled out all the stops for us to do our 6-month review video on our 2023 Lexus NX. Yes, somehow it has already been 6 months that we have owned this amazing car. We have loved every single second of it. It has been the perfect car for what we were looking for. And today, with us hitting that 6-month mark, I thought I would come on and do another likes and dislikes video, this time at 6 months, 6 more likes, and 6 more dislikes. Now, I'm going to do this exactly the same way I did the first one, and I do all my videos. If you've been with me here on the channel, we're going to start with our likes, then we'll move on to our dislikes. And what I'm going to do to make it easier for you to skip around through the video is make chapters out of each like and each dislike. So you'll see them somewhere here listed on screen, and you'll also find them down below in the play bar and description. So if you want to jump around, if some of this is not interesting to you, if long videos are not your thing, I totally get it. Feel free to use that play bar, skip and jump to what might interest you. Also, as with all my other videos, I'm going to be cutting in and out of this main shot to show you close-up footage and focused footage, and I've got dash cam footage because we've got the Lexus OEM dash cam. I have a whole video on that as well here on the channel. So today I'm just going to share with you all the things and show you all the things as we go through. So let's go ahead and kick that off, and we're going to start with our likes. And the first like for me is one that I think I've really mentioned every single time I have done a video and talked about this car. And that is that this car is the perfect size for me, for my lifestyle, and what I was looking for when I bought it. As some of you may know, if you've been with me here on the channel and seen either my original video or some of my others, my main car is a Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro. That is my garage trophy. That is my baby. That is the car or the truck that I hope to have for the rest of my life. No word of a lie. So what we were looking for when we bought the NX was a compact but premium utility vehicle that had a little bit of cargo space, but most importantly for us, could really maneuver in and out of city streets, down through alleys, that kind of thing, where a bigger vehicle or a bigger truck just wouldn't fit. This NX has been absolutely perfect for that need and that size class. It is so easy. It is a breeze to maneuver around. It is great to drive in cities and congested areas. Again, tight parking garages. I've parked this thing in some pretty teeny tiny parking spaces. It fits just perfectly. However, even though this is a like for me, I do have to tell you that if you are a household of 3 to 4 and you plan to use the back seat on a regular basis, the NX might be a little too small for you. I've said this before, and I went into it in much more detail in my NX versus RAV4 video that's also on the channel. I'll link it all down below. The back seat in the NX is tight. The cargo area in the back is small, and that's because of this overall packaging that we have in the vehicle. We have an almost coupe-like back end. We've got a slammed down roofline. This is 3 inches shorter than a RAV4. All of that comes together to create a much smaller and tighter interior. So while this is, again, the perfect car for 2 people, young professionals, retired couples, single folks, for families, you're going to want to move up to something like an RX in the Lexus family. You might be able to get away with a RAV4 on the Toyota side, but you could also move up to a Highlander on the Toyota side as well. All right, my second like about the NX is one that I have also mentioned many times before. I think some of this I've said in pretty much every video whenever I talk about the NX, and that is that this NX is just the perfect all-around daily driver, cruiser, commuter car, city car. It's just so pleasant. I think what I've said in previous videos is endlessly pleasant, and that is no less true at 6 months than it was in all the other videos. I just love the way that this car drives. It is so just endlessly pleasant. Whether you're going 9 miles an hour in city traffic or, sitting in traffic on the highway, or you're doing 99 miles an hour on the tollway, this car is so comfortable, is so confident, is so composed. Everything about the experience of driving this car is pleasant, which makes it, again, the perfect daily driver, commuter, city kind of car. However, once again, I need to caveat this like with something that may be a con or a dislike for some people. Hear me out when I say that pleasant does not mean fun. Okay? Pleasant does not mean fast either. This is not a sporty car. No matter what the roofline and the shapes and the big wheels may otherwise try to suggest to you, this is not a sporty car. This is an ultra efficient hybrid crossover. This is not something like a BMW X3 M40i. It's not like an SQ5. It's not really meant to be any kind of, ultimate driving machine. It's really designed for what Toyota does best, which is, again, incredibly practical, incredibly comfortable, incredibly reliable, and incredibly pleasant driving. Which brings me to my third like, which is that in addition to being incredibly pleasant and comfortable and capable and confident in nice weather, the NX has also absolutely shocked me, you guys, with how good it is in rough weather. Again, we've had this car now for 6 months. We bought it back in January of this year, and January, February, and March, here where I live, are the roughest months in terms of winter weather. That's when we get all of our freezing rain and our sleet and our snow and our ice accumulation. And I have, again, driven this car now through all of that. And I have to tell you, again, it is shockingly good in rough weather. We're still running on our factory Bridgestone Alenza run flat tires. Run flat tires, generally not great in winter, not great on slick road conditions. I think though, because of how good the e-all-wheel drive system is in this car, the fact that it can really quickly and really intelligently send power where it's needed most. The NX, even again on slick surfaces, in the worst rain, on some icy patches, so pleasant, so confident, so planted, and capable and comfortable on the road. It is even, okay, I have to say, it is even as good as the last daily driver I had, which was a Volvo XC90. And that car, the XC90, is, again, obviously designed in Sweden, made for the Nordic winters. That car did beautifully in all weather conditions. We also had a Subaru Outback at one point that was amazing, both on-road and off-road. And the NX really can hold its own against those two purpose-built winter weather vehicles, even though this is not really a true purpose-built winter weather vehicle. So again, not just pleasant in nice weather, but pleasant in all kinds of weather all year round. This is going to be a great daily driver for really anyone out there. Okay, moving on to our fourth like now. And this is something that I have really come to love about this car and really appreciated about it over our 6 months of ownership. And that is that I think, in my opinion, the NX is premium, very much so, but it's not precious. And let me explain what I mean by that. There are a lot of cars out there that if I owned them, I would consider them to be precious. And I'm thinking of things like a Lexus IS 500 or an LC 500 or a Porsche 911 or even a really nice Porsche Cayenne GTS. Those are the kind of cars that I would want to leave in the garage and only drive on the weekends and save for Sunday best and not park in city centers and on the street and expose them to the elements. The NX is not that kind of car. I have said many times in my other videos that I don't consider the NX to be a true luxury car for a number of reasons. But because I don't consider it to be a true luxury car, I don't feel guilty about using this car and driving this car. Now, we tend to baby our cars. We keep them in really good condition. So this is not going to turn into like a Nissan Altima, okay? This is not going to ever look like a beat up Tesla Model 3. And you see tons of those running around. We take good care of our cars. But if it gets a scratch, if somebody opens their door into it, I think I've already got a few dings from, again, parking at the airport and parking in tight parking spaces. Not really the end of the world, and I'm okay with that. The other thing that to me makes this the perfect daily driver that's not precious is, at least in ours, we have the new Lex interior, and I bought this car specifically because of that. I knew, again, that I wanted to drive this on a daily basis and not worry about it and not have to baby it. And New Lux, I know a lot of people turn their noses up at it because it's vinyl, and it is vinyl. They're not wrong, but for a car that I want to drive on a daily basis, get in, throw my bag in, throw groceries in, throw potting soil at Home Depot in, whatever it may be, all of that comes together for me to create a package that doesn't feel fragile, doesn't feel precious. The only thing that is a little bit precious and that you have to keep in mind if you are building and buying one of these is the wheels. Now, I've said before, again, I love the giant 20-inch wheels that I have here on the NX. I think they make this car. I think the base 18-inch wheels look frumpy. They look like what should be on a Civic or a RAV4 or a CRV, and I'm not throwing shade, I promise. I just love the big, bright finish 20-inch wheels. The thing to know about these, however, is because of the size of the wheel, you have a really low profile tire. What that means is there's no sidewall to protect these wheels from getting curbed. So if you are not good at parking, and you are not the kind of person who is going to take real careful care not to rub up against the curb, you might not want to get these wheels because, one, again, there isn't any protection, and two, if you were to curb these wheels, because of how beautiful that finish is and the fact that it's so pearly and silver and bright, you will see it if you scratch that wheel right away. I just love them, and I am very careful again when I drive the car because I know that they are a little bit fragile, a little bit precious. All right, moving on now to my fifth like, and that is that I really feel like this NX is a great value proposition. Now, let me be very clear. I know that this is not an inexpensive car. We paid about 58 grand out the door for ours, and that is not a small sum of money. However, when you look at the auto market, the car market as a whole, it is a shit show right now. Not just because of supply and demand issues, but if you look at what car makers are doing to the prices of new cars, they are going through the roof. It is insane how much new cars cost today. Toyota, just last week, unveiled the new Grand Highlander. That thing tops out at $59,000. Like, that is 65 to 70 grand out the door once you've added accessories and, paint protection and tax, title, and license and all that kind of thing. You are spending 70 grand on a Highlander. I just can't with that. And the same thing is happening across the auto industry. You see EVs getting more and more expensive by the day. People are dropping their base model cars because they want to sell the higher priced units and all this kind of thing. It's just insane how much cars cost now. And again, I'm not saying that this is an inexpensive car, but for me, when I look at this NX as a total package, I feel like it's a fair price, if not a great price for what you're getting. If you can make the size work, I think the price point is great. The other thing that I learned last week about one of its competitors, and I keep bagging on the X3 or mentioning the X3, but I learned last week because I have a friend who just bought a new 2023 X3. You guys, you cannot get adaptive cruise control on an X3 until you step up to the M40i. And even once you step up to that M40i, you have to add a package to it. And no, I'm not kidding. It is 2023 and BMW can't even put adaptive cruise control in a base model luxury car. Like, are you kidding me? This car, on the other hand, and you don't even have to load up an NX the way I have mine, but you can get standard, you get adaptive cruise control, you get standard lane keeping, standard forward, collision mitigation, and all that kind of thing. You might even get standard automatic emergency rear braking. So anyway, rant over. The NX is a great value proposition when you look at it as an entire package. Again, features, design, reliability, comfort, ride, pleasantness, fuel efficiency, the fact that it takes regular gas, all that kind of thing. Great value proposition. All right, and finally, moving on to my sixth and final leg, and this one is really kind of the sum of all the parts that we've talked about here up to this point in the video, and that is that the NX is the perfect complement to a garage trophy. So again, for me, it's the 4Runner, but maybe for you it's a 911, maybe for you it's a really nice Cayenne, maybe for you it's a Miata, right? Something that's not a great daily driver. This is a perfect daily driver. So if you've got one of those cars that you want to preserve and you want to keep for the rest of your life and you want to make it an heirloom that you pass down to your kids, this is the kind of car that you can buy to daily drive because it's so comfortable, because it's so pleasant, because it's so reliable. It's the perfect kind of car to do that with, and you can keep your garage trophy where it belongs, in the garage. And on Sunday, when you want to take that thing out, leave this in the driveway and it's perfectly fine. It will be there for you waiting on Monday morning while you have your fun and adventure on the weekends with your baby, with your garage trophy. And let me segue this into something really quick. Let me get a little philosophical with you for a moment, if I may. I really feel like everyone out there, but specifically and most importantly us car people, really do have a responsibility to reduce our carbon footprint as much as we can. Now, hear me when I say, that does not mean we are going to get rid of our V8s and our big V6s. We still need to have those cars because they are a part of us. They are especially increasingly now, a part of the automotive culture that is disappearing. They're becoming extinct. But I do think for daily driving, if you're like me and you drive in the city where you're driving right alongside people who are, walking on the sidewalk and jogging through parks and all that kind of thing, We have a responsibility to do better in our society. When I'm driving in city traffic, the car is really just rolling along in EV mode. When I'm stopped in traffic, in gridlock on the highway, it's off. It's not polluting. It's running on its little battery. Anything that you can do to make the world a little bit of a better place by reducing your carbon footprint, reducing the emissions from your car, I think we should all do it. And this NX is how I'm doing it and how I think a lot of other people could do it. All right, so that concludes our likes, and now let's go ahead and move on to our dislikes. Now, before we get into this, I have to tell you, just like the first video, there's really not that much to dislike about this car. I had to think long and hard to come up with 6 more things that I dislike about the car. And I should tell you right up front as well that none of the things I'm going to mention are deal breakers for me. They may be for you, which is why I'm sharing this. But for me, if, for example, this car were to get totaled tomorrow, knock on wood that doesn't happen, because I don't think I could replace it if it did. But, you know, if for some reason I had to replace this car tomorrow, I would buy another NX identical to this one because I just love it, despite all the flaws and little nitpicks that we're about to talk about. So let's get into that, shall we? My first dislike after 6 months of ownership with this Lexus NX is that the data connections in this car are disappointing. Now, in my original video, okay, I said that the technology in here is solid. And by and large, I stand by that. Everything that is mission critical in this car works flawlessly. I work in software engineering. I lead software engineering teams. And the coding of everything in this car is rock solid. It's where we start to make handshakes that things start to fall apart. What is a handshake? Well, when you have some of these services working in the car, and specifically the example I'm going to use here to share what kind of happens in the NX is using Apple Music. So this car has Apple Music built in, and I absolutely love that because what it means is that I can actually leave my phone at home because the car's got its own data connection, and that data connection powers built-in Apple Music. However, when I engage that service and I start streaming Apple Music, there are 3 handshakes that need to happen and be made to make that work. The first handshake is between Lexus and AT&T, who is the data provider for this car. So Lexus and AT&T need to handshake to get that data connection open to the car to stream. The next one is Lexus and Apple. Okay, so that is where Lexus's OS is talking to Apple servers, and that API is engaging, that handshake is happening to connect Apple Music and stream my Apple Music into the Lexus OS. And finally, the last one is Apple and AT&T. AT&T is building that data bridge between my car and the Apple servers. So it's building the bridge for Apple to then send across the song files that are then going to stream in my car. Where the NX falls down is one or more of those handshakes doesn't always stay connected. So it's kind of doing this, right? And what ends up happening from time to time is I'll be in the car streaming my Apple Music, and all of a sudden I'll get the screen that you're seeing on screen here in the video. And it says something like data connection lost or could not connect to Apple Music. And what that means essentially is one of those handshakes has fallen apart, and now that whole happy triangle no longer is a solid thing. I don't know if it's an AT&T problem. I don't know if it's an Apple problem. And it might even be because I'm having this happen not frequently, but relatively so. It could be that the data modem in this car is defective. So I'm going to have it looked at when I take this car in for service at the 6-month mark, and they might hopefully be able to tell me a little bit more about why that is happening, because again, I don't want to blame Lexus and the OS unfairly in here without knowing for sure whether it's an AT&T issue or an Apple issue. All right, moving on now though to our second dislike. We actually have to hit the road, so let's get in the car, go for a drive. My second dislike with this NX is that we have premium but not luxury class refinement. And I'll talk to you more about that on the road. All right, everyone, here we are in the NX. I've got my actual microphone hooked up here to record the sound that is happening here in the cabin, and hopefully it reproduces it pretty faithfully as we get underway here. And what I want you all to be listening for as we hit the road is the engine noise that comes into the cabin of the NX, because that is my big dislike in terms of refinement in this car. Now, as we're just cruising down the road here at normal speeds, at, city residential street speeds, so refined, so pleasant, endlessly pleasant again, really quiet. isolated from the world outside, everything that you want from a Lexus. It's when we start getting up to higher speeds and we start needing to get on the gas a little bit more that you start to hear some of the unrefined nature of the A25A FXS engine that's in this car that is shared with Camry, RAV4, Highlander, and actually it's in the new RX2. That to me is the big kind of misstep that Lexus and Toyota have been making by putting this and other little teeny tiny 4-cylinders in their more expensive, more premium cars. So I'm about to hit the gas and turn out. We're going to go up a hill and you'll hear acceleration. That's the kind of noise I'm talking about. It's not constant, so it's not like you're hearing that all the time. It's really, again, when you're getting up to speed, and especially from a stop or, you know, getting up to highway speed, when you hear that. When you're coasting, when you're under part throttle, light acceleration. So smooth, so refined. You hear a lot of those little hybrid whirring sounds. I love those in Toyota hybrids. I'm going to take us down toward the expressway and we'll hop on there and you'll probably hear a little bit more of that engine kind of, you know, grinding itself away. The other area Toyota could improve the refinement of this car is on rough pavement. That's what we're on now. And as you're hearing, there is quite a bit of that coming up through the wheels, through the tires. Part of that is because of the big 20-inch wheels and the low-profile tires that I love, so I'm willing to deal with it. But even so, I wish there was a little bit more refinement here. Okay, so here we are. We're about to turn right at that intersection, and we'll get on the 45 toll. And when we're on that stretch on the on-ramp, you'll really hear the engine screaming away to get this car up to speed. So here we go. Sounds like someone's vacuuming. Who's vacuuming? And again, as we get onto the tollway here, it's a concrete road. We're getting a lot of that through the car. A lot more than I would like through the car. You feel expansion joints and hear expansion joints. You hear and feel reflectors on the road, which is probably a good thing because you should feel that and hear that, but even so. The other thing, I'm not sure if the microphone's picking it up, but we have a rattle up here somewhere right next to my ear that's really quite irritating. I'm going to touch on that in my 5th dislike, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. But this whole area of refinement, again, is something to think about if you are coming from something like a V6 RX, one of the beautiful, absolutely amazing Lexus Toyota V6s, or even if you're coming from a Highlander, this is going to be a little bit different than that. Those V6s that Toyota used to use were so overpowered and so unstressed that you never even had to worry about refining out all of its noise, because so rarely did it ever need to make that much noise, because so rarely was it ever taxed as much as this little 4-cylinder engine is being taxed. Now, with that said, we're sitting at a red light here, and again, beautiful silence. So all the noise, all the less refined nature of this car is not constant. And especially if you're like me and you really drive this as a commuter, daily driver in the city kind of car. What you're hearing now is basically what you'll get 90% of the time. Alright, moving on now to my 3rd dislike about the NX, and this is really less of a dislike and more something that's just a little bit awkward, and it presents in some really comical ways. And that is that these electronic door handles that we have on the NX don't have any audible lock and unlock feedback. What does that mean? Well, on the NX, if you have watched any other videos about the NX or you know about this system, what we have are door handles that look very traditional, but they are actually just buttons. There's a button on the inside of the handle here, and when you press that, it opens the door. The reason that we have those electronic handles in place is because this car has something called Safe Exit Assist. And I actually think that this is a really great feature. It has actually saved me 2 or 3 times now when I've been parked downtown. What this car will do is if it senses a vehicle in the blind spot, maybe it's a car that's coming up really fast, or it's a bicyclist, or whatever it may be, if there's something in the blind spot, it will prevent the doors from opening. I think that's really cool because this can actually save both your car from damage and human bodies from damage. Where this gets a little bit, again, awkward and comical is because these are buttons, we no longer have a lock and pin, basically. Everything here is controlled electronically. What that means is when you unlock the car, this might be loud, so I apologize. If you were able to hear that, you didn't hear any kind of thunk, you didn't hear any physical note. Where this gets really comical is when you go to unlock this car from the inside. So you use one of the buttons on the driver or passenger side armrest to unlock the car. Why do you need to do that? Well, I always have my car, and I recommend all of you do this for safety. When I walk up to the car, okay, with the key fob or my key card on my person somewhere, I only have the driver door unlocked. And the reason I do that is because, again, I park in places where I don't know who's around me. There could be someone sitting here ready to jump into the car as soon as it's unlocked and hijack it from me, whatever it might be. So let's say though that you have a passenger, you've unlocked the driver door, right? That's your setting. Now you've got a passenger here though. You go to unlock the car using the button on the armrest. It does unlock, okay? So we've gone from lock mode to unlock mode in software. However, your passenger now is standing here like, and then we have this awkward moment where we're sort of like looking at each other for half a beat longer than is comfortable, like, gonna unlock the car, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh no, it's unlocked. You just have to, push the button and it's the whole thing. So anyway, I think the solution to this would be just like the locks are software. I wish they would put some kind of software in the car to create an audible alert or chime so that when you unlock the car from the inside, you get the same kind of response that you would if you were to unlock it from the outside. All right, moving on now to my fourth dislike, and that is that I feel like the gas tank in this car could have been bigger. Now, this might just be a me problem because I have always driven bigger SUVs and trucks that have, like my 4Runner has a 23-gallon fuel tank. I've had a truck that had a 32-gallon fuel tank, and I think even the XC90 that I had at least an 18 or 20-gallon fuel tank. This NX has a 13-gallon fuel tank, and as a result of that, and because I drive this car quite a bit, I find myself at the gas station more often than I would like. Now, some people out there have said, I find that too, and it's a gas guzzler, and blah, 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 blah. And the thing to keep in mind with the NX is it is a very efficient vehicle, okay? It's not a gas guzzler. It's just that you're carrying around so little gas with you at any one given time, even when the tank is full, that even with it being really efficient, you're still not able to go that far on a single tank because of the small tank capacity, not because this car is inefficient. I don't think that this is the best road trip car. It's not a dedicated or should not be a dedicated road trip car for a number of other reasons, mainly the space, lack of a spare tire. The gas tank is another one though. So this is really, again, a city car for most people. And in cities, I mean, you're really never going to be more than 2 to 5 miles away from a gas station. So it's totally doable. I just wish, like, I would sacrifice a few MPGs to have a bigger fuel tank and not have to go to the gas station as often. But that's just me. All right, moving on now to my fifth dislike about the NX, and this is one that's probably a little bit controversial, and I hesitated and thought long and hard about whether or not I should throw it in the video, but this is my honest thoughts, my honest feelings in my ownership experience with the NX, so I'm throwing it in here anyway. And that is that this NX is North American Toyota quality, but not Japanese Toyota quality. And if any of you out there, I know a lot of you are Toyota people, if you have had the number of Toyotas that we have had. We have had 8 or 9 of them. We have 3 right now, including the Lexus. If you have ever had a Toyota vehicle that was manufactured in Japan from Japan-made parts, both our RAV4 Prime and my 4Runner, 100% parts content from Japan, final assembly point in Japan. There is a marked and discernible difference between North American Toyota quality and Japanese Toyota quality. And sorry, not sorry. What I mean by this is if you look at the build quality on either our RAV4 Prime or my 4Runner, you guys, comes from the Haloed, the best Toyota plant in the world, plant number 1, Tahara Aichi plant. That is where Toyota's, what they call Takumi, or that's like the expert craftsman in Japanese, that's where they work. People who work at the Tahara plant in Japan are the ones with 20, 30, 40 years, even sometimes, of experience building Toyotas. The cars that come out of Tahara plant, like the 4Runner, Lexus GX, Lexus IS, Lexus LS, I believe, also comes out of there. World-class build quality. It is incredible, you guys, the quality that you get in a Tahara-built car. This NX, on the other hand, comes from the Cambridge, Ontario plant. And I'm not throwing shade at the Cambridge, Ontario plant. They build terrific cars. But still, you do notice a difference in not just the fit and finish, the panel gaps, the paint quality. There are some squeaks and rattles in this car. Because in North American made Toyota cars, I don't find that parts fit together as well as they do in Japanese made cars. My 4Runner, 4 years old, 13,000 miles. It has been babied for most of its life, but it's been driven. It's been driven more, and it is 4 times the age of this NX. Not one squeak, not one rattle, not one part does not fit perfectly together. And that's because not only is the build quality, like final assembly, better in Japan, but the parts quality is also better in Japan. The plastics feel better, feel thicker, feel just a little bit better made. Doesn't mean that North American cars are bad. You should still absolutely buy one. However, if you can find, because there are some NXs that come to our market that were made at the Takaoka plant with our RAV4 Prime, I would absolutely try to get one of those if you can. And finally, I promise we are almost done. I know this video has been so long. I really apologize for it. My 6th and final dislike about the NX is I've saved the funniest one for last. And that is that sport mode in this car makes it louder, but not faster. So this car actually has really great get up and go. It's got a lot of great torque from the bigger electric motor that again comes from the Highlander and not the RAV4. So even in normal mode, this thing's got great kick. It's got a great kind of start right off the line. I never personally in driving this car feel like I need to put it in sport mode. My husband, on the other hand, who drives the RAV4 Prime, is used to that like seat jolting acceleration. That thing goes 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds. When you floor that thing off the line, it pushes you back in your seat. That's what he's used to. So when he comes and drives the NX, he's looking for more acceleration than the car can do. As a result, he puts it into sport mode. And when you put it into sport mode, the car is either creating fake engine noise or it is amplifying the engine noise that's actually happening in the engine bay and bringing it into the cabin through the speakers. And I absolutely hate that. I don't understand why car companies do this. I think it's to give you that like visceral, exhaust and engine noise and all that kind of thing. But like, you guys, this is a hybrid, okay? This is a comfortable, pleasant to drive little city commuter hybrid. It is not, again, a BMW X3 M40i. It is not an SQ5. It's not a Porsche Macan. I'm not looking for growling engines and, kind of shift noises and I don't know. I don't feel it remapping anything though, so I don't feel it, giving me any more acceleration. I don't feel it ramping up the torque faster. I don't feel it changing, any of those curves in terms of power delivery. So because it doesn't make it faster and it just makes it louder, I don't use sport mode and I don't like sport mode. I even have a suspicion that some of the reviewers who have reviewed this car, okay, I know a lot of auto reviewers out there put these cars into sport mode because a lot of these reviewers, okay, when they get these cars, they put them into sport mode because they want super fast acceleration and all this kind of thing. And there are two people in particular that I'm thinking of. I love them to pieces, so I'm not throwing shade at them. But Zach and Andrea Spencer, I know they like to put the cars that they get to review in sport mode. And then they complain about it being loud. And I think, I don't know for sure, my speculation is they put the NX into sport mode and that's why it got louder. So again, I don't know for sure, that's just my speculation, but anyway, that was my sixth and final dislike. I apparently now have gardeners outside on lawnmowers, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was enjoyable. For all of those of you who asked for this video, I hope this is what you were looking for. Questions and comments, leave them downstairs. I will be back to do my Q&A video that you all contributed questions to as well, so look for that in the near future. This is what happens when you make YouTube videos from your garage as a hobby and not for like your professional work. That's what happens. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great one. I will talk to you real soon and take care.